So as we've been reporting, the president's attorneys sending Bannon a cease and desist letter. Joining us now to talk about that and more, Isaac Wright, former executive director of the pro-Hillary Clinton Correct the Record super PAC, and Alexandra Smith, the executive director for America Rising PAC. Great to have you both with us on a very quiet night in D.C. as the news breaks hour by hour. All right, so let's talk about some of these things. Doug had this quote that I want to read and have you guys react to. This is attributed to Steve Bannon. You realize where this is going. He's talking about the Russia investigation. This is all about money laundering. Mueller chose senior prosecutor Andrew Weissman first, and he is a money laundering guy. Their path to blanking Trump goes right through Paul Manafort, Don Jr., and Jared Kushner. It's as plain as a hair on your face. He went on to have some pretty nasty things to say about Jared Kushner. Isaac, not surprising. Those two did never seem to get along.
Yeah. They have had a long-running political feud, and it certainly seemed to spill over into this. I think the problem for Trump is that this is the beginning of the unraveling, right? We've had 4 indictments so far, a couple in his inner circle.
But not related to the Trump allegations of Russia collusion, just so we're clear. I mean, the Manafort stuff and the Gates stuff, that's money laundering and banking and all
right, that was money laundering and banking prior to the campaign,
right,
with the same regime that supposedly meddled in our elections and with the same people that meddled in our elections as they were meddling in the Ukraine. The others, Flynn, I think, was indictment for lying to the FBI about potential collusion with Russia. The same thing with Papadopoulos. And those have both taken guilty pleas because they did relate directly to the campaign, so we'll see where it goes. This seems to be the beginning of the end for Trump. Now, what does that mean in the investigation? Does it actually lead all the way back to Trump? I don't know. Only time will tell. But it certainly seems that more, even in his inner circle, are starting to flee for cover. Even people like Steve Bannon, who's not exactly a beacon of ethics himself, because if you read closely what's been released of what he said, he didn't condemn that they did this, quote, treasonous, unpatriotic thing. He complained that they did it in a way they could get caught.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Alexandra, he says it's over. It's over for the president. What do you say?
No, I don't know. We're going to lead back to him.
Beginning of the end. Beginning of the end.
Beginning of the end of the investigation. It's going to unravel from here. I don't know if it's going to go back to the president or not.
The president, as you all know, sent a scorched earth policy statement out this afternoon. Here's part of what he said. He says, now that he's on his own, Steve is learning that winning isn't as easy as I make it look. Steve had very little to do with our historic victory, which was delivered by the forgotten men and women of this country. He points to the Alabama-backed Roy Moore by Bannon, him not winning and talking about other things that he says Bannon has overinflated and over-exaggerated his importance to this whole thing. He's clearly trying to distance himself from him now.
Well, look, I think that Steve Bannon made the mistake of confusing President Trump's abilities for his own. And I think it's important to consider that with respect to Russia, we're really talking about 2 different things here. We have, one, the formal investigation, a very important investigation that's going on. And then on the other hand, we have sort of this palace intrigue in D.C. It's very interesting, great gossip, great fodder for people like me and for Isaac and for you. But at the end of the day, I'm not sure that this is where the American people really have their attention. You know, the president was elected by the American people. Steve Bannon wasn't. So at the end of the day, I think they're looking for President Trump's agenda rather than at the, you know, supposed words of the hired help.
Okay, so some of what he's saying sounds very not positive for the president and for his administration. But I want to play a little bit of what he said back on 60 Minutes when he was still officially apart or had just separated from the White House and seemed still very much to be in the president's corner. Here's what he said back in September.
What do you mean what they believe? We don't really, I mean, that there may have been, I think, look, I was there. It's a total and complete farce. Russian collusion is a farce.
So, Isaac, that's what he said in September.
Right. So, and I think that's the really crucial thing about why this is more than just palace intrigue, why this is potentially criminal, because he raised the point in the book about the meeting where Kushner and Manafort and the senior-most circle around Trump at that time, it predated Bannon, went to a meeting with Russian officials under the auspices that they would be receiving opposition research on Hillary Clinton, that they would be receiving, quote, dirt on Hillary Clinton, something of a value, right? Because that had a monetary value. That would make it illegal had that transmission of a monetary value from a foreign government actually happened.
If the campaign had been offered the same thing, they would have showed up to a meeting?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Alexandra?
I mean, look, I think that the Hillary Clinton campaign would have shown up to a meeting like that. But, you know, here's...
You have to agree to disagree. As Isaac is...
I would be curious. You run a research organization. Would you show up to a foreign government offering you an illegal contribution?
Well, this is somebody who
of opposition
was
research?
not represented to them as an official representative of the Russian government. But of course, people say, you know, if you meet with anybody from the Russian government, you're probably meeting with somebody who has designs on you or has a motive.
Here's something to consider. I think that you can see through Steve Bannon's past statements that he has a vendetta out for the Trump children. I mean, look at in Alabama when he openly mocked Ivanka Trump on stage at the Roy Moore event. So he clearly has an agenda out for the kids. So it wouldn't be surprising to me that he would necessarily say these things about Don Jr. because we've seen his penchant for attacking the Trump children in the past. You know, that being said, I think look at the scorecard since Bannon has left the White House. On the one hand, we have tax reform that got passed. That's a huge victory for President Trump and the Republicans. On the other hand of the ledger, we have Steve Bannon, who, you know, hangs the Alabama Senate race.
But if I can finish the point I was making about that meeting in New York, that's where the bombshell is. It wasn't the fact that meeting happened. We knew it happened. We knew the intention that was laid out. That's all been documented. The emails have been turned over. Bannon made the point in the book, there's no logical way that the president's son-in-law, his campaign chief strategist at that time, Manafort, and the inner circle were going to a meeting to get secret dirt from a foreign government on Hillary Clinton, and Trump didn't know about it. That was the point that Bannon raised in the excerpt that, if true, is a bombshell.
Well, we'll see, because the president has denied, unfortunately we're out of time, but the president has denied he had any knowledge of it or any meeting about that. So if the facts prove otherwise, he'll have to answer that question. But for now, he stands by that. So we got to leave it there for now. But I'm sure there'll be another scandal erupting soon. So come back. Good to see you both.
Thanks.
Good to see you. Thanks so much.